Hello, ladies and gentlemen, George here. Today I'm going to bring you a video, a tactical analysis of scenario U14, sacrifice of Polish armor. Takes place on the first day of the Second World War, where the Germans attack Poland, and from the other end, little did we know back then when we were in high school or elementary that Soviet Union attacked at the same time. Anywho, we're not drinking either tea or coffee today. We're drinking water from a recycled um, Italian marinated seafood antipasto jar. Because basically the air quality is outside is poor and it's hot, like you wouldn't believe. Anywho, let's dive into the scenario. I think you're going to find a lot of interesting points, and you might get something out of it. You might not, but let's see what you can get out of it. So let's start with the ROAR data. And the ROAR data says sacrifice of Polish armor. That's scenario U14. The Polish won 8 times, the German 22. That's like a 2-to-1 ratio in favor of the Germans. But what I found after playing it several times, and I'm still playing it with my gaming partners, I found that the Polish put up a good fight. And it's very challenging for the Germans to win. And this ROAR data may not give justice to a well-balanced scenario that, if it's played right, will give plenty of hours of enjoyment. I want to take the perspective that of analysis that Jim Bishop put in his article about attacking an ASL and his maxims. And I would like to thank Jim and Neil Yulin for hosting those PDFs. I got mine here and I printed it out. So Jim's maxims are 4 in total: victory conditions, terrain, time, and order of battle. And in my little journal, I begged Jim for a copy of this article, and I do peruse Neil's website for the rest of the stuff, because for some forsaken reason I didn't download all the PDFs. I thought that site would be up forever. Little did I know. So my maxims in my order are objective, time. I distinguish between the friendly OB and the enemy OB, terrain, and special rules. When you think about, though, the amount of analysis that Jim put into his article and thought, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just after playing ASL profusely for a few years and then running a journal by it as well, when I read Jim's article, it just kind of reinforced and formalized all the thoughts that I had about ASL and how to play the game effectively, which is great. My books. So a nice quote from Jim's article, Attacking an ASL, circa 2021, 2022. I'm not sure when Jim wrote it. American General S. Patton Jr. once said, "A good plan executed violently now is better than a perfect plan next week." The same holds true for ASL. When in doubt, attack aggressively and keep your opponent under pressure. What is important to state here is that Jim says, don't confuse aggression with recklessness. However, sometimes there's a fine line between the two. I couldn't agree more with Jim. However, I do disagree with George S. Patton Jr. Because is uh, violence is a consequence of a well executed plan. It can be potentially a consequence, but it is not the main ingredient. The main ingredient is the I guess the cunning and know-how of convincing your opponent he is defeated. I'm using the pronoun he just for grammatical clarity. He is defeated even before the game has begun. To put it bluntly and concisely, if you are out there going full blown nutso, chances are you're going to get hit in the groin and the bullet will exit your butt, your butt, your rear end. Yeah, and I am positive Jim here goes to great lengths to remind us not to confuse aggression with recklessness. Having that in mind, I have some uh, tips as to how to play the Germans well and how to play the Polish well. And from time to time we might dive into the map, or we'll go into the map later and explore that and the ASL map board, which this game is played on. All right, so salient points for the German player. Form attack groups. Although there isn't a formal order of battle in ASL, doesn't mean you can't create one. That's why I name my leaders. And each leader has a purpose or a goal to lead a certain number of squads to their objective without incurring casualties, of course. Assign leaders a platoon of squads and a goal to be reached: assault groups, support groups, guards. Guards are important. Why? For two reasons. First reason is a guard can hold a building from a surprise counterattack by the infantry. Infantry can hold buildings AFEs can't. Now, if you advance your line of squads against the enemy, you proceed and you leave your rear open, there's bound to be a concealed unit in your rear, you forget about it, or you haven't seen one of the two hip guns. One of the two crews can abandon their gun, take double time to the objective, and you're done. You lost the game, and I'll show you how. So I'm guessing the best way I could have um, prefaced this video is how do you win the scenario on either side without having to necessarily roll low. Anywho, see that my face is getting in the way, so I'm gonna just temporarily or momentarily uh, turn off my video capture. There you go. Deploy, reconnaissance, search, and seizure. Losing a half squad is better than losing an entire squad. Force the opposing player to reveal his hand. So you have about 15 squads, German squads in this game. Not thinking about deploying is pure nuts. Oh, the second reason why you need guards is to guard prisoners, because if prisoners, uh, if you declare no quarter, then every subsequent squad after you declare no quarter can retreat, rally, and come back to haunt you. Yeah, all right. Going on to deployment. Of course, you got to deploy a couple of half squads. You're not going to, if you're trying to uh, bait your opponent into firing and revealing his units, of course you're not going to do it with a full squad. It's better to lose a half squad than an entire squad. Um, so, forcing the opposing player to reveal his hand, I'll show you how that can be done here. Um, was I successful? Let's say I could have been more successful than I was. And even when it came to a full squad, I wasn't baited into firing until I saw potential valuable targets. Valuable targets being negative modifier leaders, certain AFEs that have certain capabilities, and so on. Rather than attempting to capture all victory locations, attempt to capture only the required minimum number to win. So I'll go over the victory locations in a moment when we get to the board. Um, and it's very tempting in this scenario saying, oh, look at the big German OB that I have. I have so many tanks, but the problem with the tanks is they're early war, low armor, and breakdown number of 11. Luckily, you're not dealing with a harsh winter scenario. Otherwise, it would have been a lot worse than you could imagine. All right. Um, Use armor for their appropriate use. L-type weapons are for long distance, not close quarters. MG-equipped tanks are for infantry support. Crews carry smoke grenades, D13.35, look that up. Smoke is um, critical, especially if you're planning to enter from the open. And recall before attempting to sleaze freeze that early war armor is vulnerable to MG fire. Plus, the little known rule that a vehicle in vehicular bypass or vehicular stationary vehicular bypass is subject to street fighting. So that means that a squad that has a CCV value of 5 gets now a 6. So the sleaze freeze is touch and go in this scenario. Plan your attack path to retain concealment, as getting into a firefight with 8 morale units is lethal to the attacker. So what that means is, in this case, um, the Polish squads have assault fire as a SSR, and they have an 8 morale. They're all elites. So attempting to break an elite squad is problematic. And if you spend too much time prep firing in this game as the German player, you're most certainly going to lose. And as well, if you declare no quarter, thinking that, okay, um, that without guards, I can go into close combat more readily and obtain my objective. The moment you do that, and the Polish squads start retreating, rallying, and coming back to fight again, you'll have you have a more challenging time trying to win than you could imagine. All right, let's go on to the Poles, the brave Poles that pulled off quite a few victories in this scenario. Here we are, salient points for the Polish player. Do not forget to deploy concealed hip guns, bore sight AT guns, MMGs, and light mortars, as Dennis pointed out to me. If the German player allows you the opportunity, entrench. Height advantage and woods afford very little cover against -2 leaders. So you entrench, you get +2. That will negate the -2 leaders that, well, the one -2 leader that is in the German OB. Um, if that doesn't do it, then the sniper will. Happened to me. Conduct a fighting withdrawal with initial units while guarding reinforcement routes. Keep concealment and skulk. Or even also do-si-do. That's part of my tactic. I might show you the do-si-do as well. I learned do-si-do back in grade 1 or 2. Yeah, water. Good. Um, So let's go back to conduct a fighting withdrawal with the initial unit. So what happens here in this scenario is you start off with just a few Polish units and 2 leaders. Then, as of turn 2, you have to draw a chit, and I'll show you how to do the chits here in Vassal. And depending on the chit that you draw, you might have Group A coming in or Group B coming in or nothing at all. By turn 5, then, if your units haven't already arrived on board, they will. So orchards provide last resort of reinforcement path. I'll show you what I mean by that as well. So try to hold one of the 2 mandatory victory conditions while heavily defending one of the 2 optional VCs, or heavily defend one of the 2 victory conditions. Draw the German player to an in-depth defensive line. All right, that should be self-explanatory, but we'll look more at the math. Recall your armor are small targets. So in this case, I'm not even sure that we can call them tanks. They are tankettes. and they're very small targets. +2 modifier for for on the 2-hit roll against them, plus any other positive modifiers like in motion, and more mobile even with platoon movement, with 14 movement points versus the German 12 for the good armor and 15 for the light CMG uh, armored um, CMG main armaments. So this is an excellent scenario as a follow-up to my previous video about overruns, because the overruns that were conducted here were what inspired me to do the previous video. They can also be used to deny route paths, right? So get behind the lines with the MPs that are allotted to you. Don't even go face to face um, with the German armor. Try to get around to the rear and position them in such a way that when um, the German squads have to rout, they have nowhere to rout, and thus eliminated or captured. AT guns, ATRs, and MGs are your weapons against German armor, but prioritize infantry targets first. So, what I mean by that is prioritize infantry targets because infantry targets are the ones that can hold onto buildings, not tanks. However, you have a 37L AT gun, you have ATRs and Allied ATRs and German ATRs, no, sorry, Allied ATRs and Russian ATRs have a base to kill number of 6 as opposed to 5. So if you look at the table C3, C7.31, there's a ATR in red, and it says there Russian, Finnish, Japanese, Allied, and Axis Minor Italian 20L only. Huh. Maybe it isn't applicable to a basic for Allied Minor, because for Allied and Axis Minor Italian, it's 20L only. I don't think. Eh, well, we'll double check that. Nonetheless, armor factors of 1 on the German, most of the German tanks in the OB afford at close quarters the opportunity of MGs with rates of up to 3, because there is a heavy in this scenario, a Polish heavy, will afford you the opportunity to knock out a lot of tanks. All right, so what's last? Let's go to the map and draw. Let's see, where do we go here? Getting the map out. There we go. Let's see if we can zoom in. Can't see my, there it is. Okay, let's see if we can zoom in. All right. So first and foremost, ink color. Let's see, blue. The Germans have to pick one entry point, um, either here or here, within 2 hexes of these hexes. All right, not both. Very interesting stuff. Um, Now, we're going to do a little race to see how to best enter and whether this is the shortest uh, path to advance. Keep in mind there's uh, gullies here that impede movement, okay? And there's also mountain ranges that impede movement, whereas um, this path here might be subject to an ambush. Case in point, an AT gun here. And this path seems a bit long-winded. Now, what I did in the scenario where I did win as the Germans is I came in along here, then used uh, these breaks in the woods to come down here concealed, and then um, the first building fell due to a well-planned post-combat attack, and then we whittled our way down to here. I don't recall if I used this tree line as a means of attack, but I did form a nice fire group here and here, here. Got the first objective, the second objective, and this one by the skin of my teeth. Um, and luckily I won. Um, Now, going back to the, um, let's see if we can erase all ink on slide. Good. Going back to the victory objectives, the Germans must capture this building and this building and one of these two. Either this one or that one, but not both. So going back towards Jim's Bishop's VCs is, as the German player, know your victory objective. You need to capture and hold this one. You need to capture and hold that one. And then either A or B, but not both. Right? So why attempt to capture everything, stretch your forces thin, and then you're up the creek without a paddle? Knowing your terrain. Um, Here it will be risky. Uh, Here you might be subject to an ambush by the AT gun. However, here you'll take more time, but it'll lead you right smack in the middle of these guys, and you have severed their lines of communication in two, and you're most likely going to get the opportunity to be able to smack them here and get your uh, second much needed victory objective. But like I said before, we're gonna go over and have a little truck race. Yeah. Now let's go to the poles and change in color. Red for the poles. Here's the initial. Um, Here are the initial troops where you see one leader here, one leader here. Notice in my setup or hypothetical setup, I um, I am assigning leaders to do two different groups of infantry, and yeah, they're wide apart. However, I have them in such a position where they can be a pain to my opponent. First, I'm covering this path here and that, and as a matter of fact, you might want to have the covered arc facing this way, and here I have uh, my covered arc facing this way. In case he comes down this road, I bore sight this location. Um, Now, having said that, um, I had a situation where the AT gun was here and took out most of my, on a right tear, took out most of my tanks. Um, Here I got a leader with a MMG, and alternatively, if you suspect that they'll come from here, best to put him here, and you can lay down a rate, a fire, right, on a ground level location, if you so please, or you can even set him up here in the rear and still wreak havoc in this direction. I put my mortar here, but you can conceivably put him anywhere where he has line of sight to a tree line. So the Poles, despite having relatively few forces at the start, um, positioning them in such a way where they can fight a fighting withdrawal uh, helps a lot. All right, so let's circle back now to to the um, the map, and let's see if I can reveal to you some more useful things to remember. There I go losing my cursor again. There it is. Okay. Slide number 1. All right. And let's pull up the map. So here's the vassal map. Now, here are your troops. You got a 9 minus 2 leader right there. So going back to my first point of forming fire groups, you got a 9 minus 1, another 9 minus 1. And I don't accord rank to leadership modifiers. For all I know, the 8-0 could be a colonel and the 9 minus 2 could be a sergeant. You can have a 9 minus 1 as a lieutenant and an 8-0 lieutenant. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. Divide your troops evenly amongst your leaders, and basically you have fire teams or assault teams. The 9 minus 1 leaders should be the vanguard of your attack. The 8-0 should be guards and support. So I would be giving them the MMGs, believe it or not. And yeah, it doesn't constitute a kill stock, but it still prevents cowering. And if you get, let's say, a 4, 2 2s, it's leader directed by an 8-0, that MMG will retain rate and continue firing. So there you go. So you got assault team 1, 2, 3, guard, guard. And then you allocate MGs accordingly and all the support weapons accordingly. Now, with that said, we also get some chucks. And let's take a look at the different movements that can, and see if we can have a race. See which tank will go further, which truck will go further. Motorcycles have 28 and 26 movement points. However, remember that only the motorcycles with sidecars can conduct overruns. Now let's see which side will yield the most amount of movements. In this case, I'll have 3 trucks, but they'll be side by side. And this guy will be going along this path, and the other fellow will go along this path, and we'll see what happens. So a half to there, 1, 1.5, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 8 plus 3, 11, 8 plus 4 is 12. 4. All right, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. You're a bit far from the objective, but conceivably you could have come here or up to this board edge. Now let's see if we choose to go the other direction. So let's start off with this and see a half, 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8.5, 9, 10.5, because it costs 2 to change your covered arc, 11, 12, 13, 13.5, 14.5, 15, 15.5, and 16, 17, 17.5, 18, 18.5, 19, 20.5, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24.5, 25.5, 26, 27, 28. So this route here brings you further, but chances are you're going to get your truck shot up. But you know what I mean. All right, here, a half. 1, 2, and 3, 3.5, 4, 5, 5.5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 and a half, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then here you'll end up paying a boatload of um, movement points to get past it, get past the shell holes. And again, who needs these movement points? Because the probability of you coming here unscathed, right, is very unlikely. So here's my example of the assault groups. Here's my example of knowing your terrain and where you're going. About there you go. Right, we try different paths. What else is to say? Oh yeah, uh, these babies, motorcycles. So we discussed that we can deploy and uh, decide on whether you're going to deploy on using um, sidecars because sidecars can conduct overruns, but these guys can't, and they cannot exert anything. Um, Keep in mind that these babies cannot deny concealment, they cannot deny route pass because for the purposes of routes, they're considered to be um, to be broken units. I can't deny concealment. Um, I went over the uh, initial um, Polish setup, and I also made mention of the reinforcements that may or may not come as of turn two, using height advantage and entrenching for a +2 DRM, and keeping your concealment. Um, I think the trick here is uh, as the defender, concealment is your friend. And now I recall using the do-si-do. How to use the do-si-do, ladies and gentlemen. It's like a form of skulking. Okay. Let's say I have a couple of squads here. Okay. And a unit here. Let's give him a LMG. It's pretty simple. And let's put him down here. Interesting enough, your defender is concealed. This fellow is concealed. And it is his prep fire phase. He wants to attack. Example of the do-si-do. Actually, it's his defensive final fire. So he has a 6, +2 for the 10, but since he's more he is a concealed, he'll have a 2 flat on the shot. So 2 flat. Let's see what happens. Roll a 6 on the 2, which is a pin toss check, no rate, so that's enough to conceal him. Boom. So let's roll a toss check. Passes and passes. However, now we got an exposed unit, an unconcealed unit, subject to his fire. What shall we do? Come advance phase, you do the do-si-do. He do-si-do's back here. This guy do-si-do's in there. And now, can he be seen by him? No. So now in the close combat phase, he'll come back concealed, right? In the subsequent phase, if he gets unconcealed, it's just a squad. I have a squad and a 9-1 leader here. So they do the do do. That's the do do. Jeez, I've said a lot. Yeah, I enjoy doing this video because it brought back a lot of good memories playing this game. Winning and losing. I don't remember if I've lost though so far. I'm about to lose a couple of scenarios. I'm pretty sure of this thing, but so far I had some good victories, mostly with the Poles. So I would say the ratio of the Polish winning here is the opposite of what's on the ROAR data, and with average rolls. We check our rolls with the what do you call that thing in Vassal? There's a little icon with a bar graph on it. Here we go. And you click on it and it gives you the average roll of 7. See what I mean? It's phenomenal technology. Anywho, ladies and gentlemen, that's the video for this week. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to have a video next week. I can't promise you one because I am trying to get some personal work done before the end of August. It's imperative that I complete it. I have a lot of challenges in life, and you know, quality ain't everything. Family is. So, with that said, I bid you farewell for now. Stay tuned, and do recommend a couple of friends this channel. The best way that it can get around is by word of mouth, not tags or anything else. So stay healthy, my friends. Roll low. I'm getting the hang of things, and enjoy. Take care.